He did. Not the 2 decades of stage work in New York and Los Angeles, the Shakespeare, the off-Broadway runs, the Tony nomination that came and went and left him exactly where he had started. Hollywood noticed Morgan Freeman in 1987, when he played a violent street pimp in a film that barely made $1 million at the box office, and a film critic at The New Yorker named Pauline Kael looked at the performance and wrote, as her opening sentence, before saying anything else, "Is Morgan Freeman the greatest American actor?" She wrote that about his first significant film role. He was 50 years old. He had been doing this since he was 9. That is the central fact of Morgan Freeman's life, and the thing that makes it unlike any other story in the history of American cinema. Not the Oscar that began in one of the most difficult places in America, and ended, by choice, in the same place, on land his grandparents had owned, with bees in the garden and horses in the field and the Delta horizon at every window. The world agreed with him eventually. He had never doubted it would. That is the most interesting thing about him. But the beginning is not the career. The beginning is the grandmother. Morgan Porterfield Freeman Jr. was born on the 1st of June, 1937, in Memphis, Tennessee, the youngest of 5 children of a barber father and a schoolteacher mother who separated early, and who both, in the manner of so many black families in the Jim Crow South, spent the years of his childhood trying to find somewhere better. He was sent as an infant to his paternal grandmother in Charleston, Mississippi, a town of unpaved roads and deep poverty and the specific, grinding oppression of a state that had codified white supremacy into every structure of public life. His grandmother died when he was 6. He moved north to Chicago with his mother, into the notorious South Side, where he has said he ran to school and ran home every day because the gangs that controlled the streets used knives and ice picks and bats, and a small child who could not run fast enough learned consequences. He found the movies. He saved bottles, milk bottles worth 5 cents, soda bottles worth 2 cents, beer bottles worth 2 cents, enough to get to 12 cents, which was the price of a ticket, which was the price of escape. He sat in the dark and watched Gary Cooper and Spencer Tracy and Sidney Poitier and learned something that no school in Chicago was teaching: what a man could look like from the outside, and how much of what the camera showed was simply the man's relationship with his own interior. The family moved again. This time south, back to Mississippi, to Greenwood, where his mother settled and where Morgan Freeman attended Broad Street High School, joined the Glee Club, argued on the debate team, played in the band, and at 12 years old won a statewide drama competition with a one-act play performance that the judges apparently could not stop talking about. He was, by any local measure, the most naturally gifted performer in a state that was not in 9, and he weighed it against the single certainty he had carried since the first film he saw in the dark in Chicago. And he chose the certainty. He graduated high school in 1955. He was off in 1967 in a show about the Freedom Riders. He made his Broadway debut in 1968 in an all-black production of Hello, Dolly, featuring Pearl Bailey and Cab Calloway playing the head waiter, a role that required his new dance training and that taught him, by way of the most practical possible education, what it meant to sustain a performance 8 times a week in a commercial production with a living audience. The 1960s gave way to the 1970s. He was in his 30s. He had been doing this for a decade. Who has not? He was cast in Julius Caesar, in Coriolanus, which won him an Obie Award. The first of 3 he would eventually receive. The Obie was the off-Broadway world's acknowledgement that something exceptional was happening in a room that the larger world had not yet found. He collected the award, continued working, and waited. In 1971, a children's educational television program called The Electric Company offered him a regular role. He took it. He has said, later, that he was initially terrified, not of the work, but of the consequence, which was that 6 years of daily children's television might make him permanently, irreversibly, associated with children's television in a way that no film director would be able to think past. He worried about this for approximately the length of time it took him to realize that he needed the income and that the work was still the work. He played Easy Reader, a groovy literary enthusiast who found joy in any text, storefront signs, shot on glamorous craft of showing up and being present in front of a camera whether you felt like it or not. He was, in other words, being trained by the job he feared would limit him. The electric company ended in 1977. He was 40 years old. He went back to Lean on Me. Joe Clark, the controversial, autocratic principal who arrived at a failing New Jersey high school armed with a bullhorn and a bat, and the specific, fierce conviction that the children in his school deserved better than what they were getting. Freeman played him with the authority of a man who has thought carefully about what authority is for. The Los Angeles Times made of an entire film in a supporting role without once drawing attention to the fact that he was doing it. And then, Driving Miss Daisy, Hugh Colborn, the patient, dignified, quietly powerful chauffeur, who spent 2 decades driving an elderly white Southern Jewish woman, and who is, without making peace with the idea that circumstances were all there was. The narration that opens and runs through the Shawshank Redemption is, in the 4-decade history of voiceover in American film, the finest sustained use of a human voice to carry the moral weight of a story. Every word lands. Nothing is wasted. The performance is perfectly, invisibly calibrated to the frame. Filming the baseball scene, he has played God. Twice. He has played the president, multiple times. He has played the wisest man in every room. Not because the industry typecast him in wisdom, but because he brought wisdom to every room he entered, and the industry eventually learned to write rooms that used it. The Oscar came in 2005 for $1 Million Baby, Clint Eastwood's film about an aging trainer, a scrappy female boxer, and the relationship between them that ends in a moral decision so difficult the film barely survived the controversy of depicting it, required Freeman to play Eddie Scrap Ion Dubriz, the former boxer who had given his eye to the profession, who ran the gym, who narrated the film, and who was, in the deepest structural sense, the story's conscience. He had worked with Eastwood before. They trusted each other in the way that 2 people trust each other when they have both been doing something for a very long time and have arrived at the same understanding of what it requires. At the 77th Academy Awards, after 4 previous nominations spanning 17 years, Morgan Freeman won Best Supporting Actor. He was 67 years old. He accepted the award with the same quality he had brought to every room in his career, unhurried, present, without the performance of gratitude or the performance of surprise. He had known it was coming. Not this specific night, but he had known. And then, August of 2015. His step-granddaughter, Adina Hines, whom he and his second wife Myrna had adopted, who had called herself his granddaughter, who had been at his side at public events, and who had been pursuing her own acting career in New York City, was murdered by her boyfriend in Washington Heights. She was 33 years old. Freeman issued a statement that said the world will never know her artistry and talent and how much she had to offer. Her friends and family were fortunate enough to have known what she meant as a person. He said nothing else publicly. He went back to work. That is not a performance of resilience. That is what grief looks like in a man who has been absorbing loss since his grandmother died and he was 6 years old and had to move to the south side of Chicago and run to school every morning because of what happened to boys who didn't run fast enough. He is still here. He lives outside Charleston, Mississippi, on land that his grandparents owned, that he bought from his parents in 1991, and where he built a home and a life that the Delta itself seems designed to support. The flat horizon, the enormous sky, the sense of time moving differently than it does in cities. He co-founded Ground Zero, a blues club in Clarksdale, Mississippi, because the blues is not a genre he appreciates academically, but a form of survival he grew up inside, and that he has spent his adult life trying to sustain. He turned his 124-acre ranch into a bee sanctuary in 2014, beginning with 26 beehives. After reading about the decline of honeybee populations and deciding that this was a problem he had the land to help address. He tends the bees without protective gear. He has said the bees have never stung him. He speaks about them the way he speaks about acting, with the attention of someone who has been paying close attention for a very long time and has arrived at conclusions the casual observer has not reached. He founded the Tallahatchie River Foundation, which focuses on early childhood education in the most underserved counties of Mississippi. The counties that look like the Mississippi he grew up in. The Mississippi that offered him almost nothing and that he has spent his adult years trying to change from the inside. His daughter Morgana runs the foundation now, sharpening its focus toward a goal she describes simply: children should thrive by 3rd grade. Freeman attends the meetings, he listens, he lets Morgana lead. He has said, of Mississippi, I realized it's where I was happiest. I realized it's where I belong. He said it to a journalist who asked, with the slightly patronizing good intentions of someone from outside the state, how he had ever gotten out. He said, I took the bus. And came back. The question nobody asks Morgan Freeman, because the voice makes the question feel redundant, is what he thinks the voice is actually for. He has narrated the creation of the universe and the nature of God, and the annual migration of emperor penguins and the moral choices of condemned men in 1947 Ohio. He has been cast as God so often that the cultural shorthand for divine authority in American popular culture is the specific frequency and cadence and unhurried certainty of his speaking voice. And yet, he has said more than once, in various contexts, that the voice is not the thing. That he is not a narrator who occasionally acts, but an actor who occasionally narrates. Da ciacomiertis eie dia, vero eloro capannemoseto, I faieno caractere sisretano, I thio costo caracter troseto, I thioro costo dio dions magenamo sedi. Niotros a baseball sirnain diatawei. He arrived the next morning with his arm in a sling and said nothing. That is the voice telling you what the character costs. Have you ever watched someone do something? A craft, a discipline, a way of being in the world, with such complete attention and over such a long period that the doing itself became the statement. Not the awards. Not the recognition. The doing. Leave a comment below, because that is the 50-year argument Morgan Freeman has been making since he was 9 years old in a school play in Mississippi. That the work is the point. Not what the work produces. Not what the work is rewarded with. The work. The showing up. The throwing of the baseball. The sling on the arm the next morning. The bees in the garden. The land his comprehensive documentary about the nature of God that television has produced. He threw a baseball for 9 hours and arrived the next morning without a word. He was 50 years old, the first time Hollywood noticed him. He had been there all along. What is the thing you have been doing, quietly, fully, without the recognition arriving on the schedule you might have preferred, that you have not yet stopped doing? Leave a comment below, because the answer to that question, applied to Morgan Freeman's life, stretches from 1946 in Charleston, Mississippi, to today, on 124 acres of delta land, with bees in the garden that do not sting him, horses in the field, and the biggest sky you have ever seen above a man who understood. From the moment he first sat in the dark and watched Gary Cooper move across a screen, that this was what he was going to do. He was right. He has always been right. The world just needed 30 years to catch up. If this story moved something in you, subscribe and tell me in the comments which Morgan Freeman performance is the one you could not stop thinking about afterward, because the greatest performance he ever gave may not be on any screen or any stage. It may be the one he has been giving every day for 87 years. The performance of a man who is exactly who he is, who has always been exactly who he is, and who has never once, in a profession built on transformation, needed to be anyone else.